seventh and last video. Um, right, there's another huge thing, but I'm still working on it, which will increase the margin of every single product quite significantly, but I've not yet understood how to explain it, but that's still in the works. But anyway, until now, let's put together the game plan. So the game plan that takes into account all of this understanding is that what we want is to operate from a context where we are sure, so we got the certainty about the success of a competitor. That's dropshipping. That's a mess in as many ways as possible. So this is basically product research, but it's a very nuanced product research because now we want to operate from that point, right? So that's basically step one. Step two is to validate, like to copy them exactly as they are, and to validate the profitability on the front end using exactly what they have, right? So it's like step two is build upon the context of step one instead of something else, right? And then we got step three, which builds upon the context of step two, right? So now that it's validated, it's cool, it's profitable, now it's the party time. So right, so now there's implementing infrastructure. A part of the infrastructure, sure. The infrastructure is more like an ongoing thing with its own split tests and improvements, right? But it's the time to implement the infrastructure, essentially. Step four is to do all the proper split test, properly split testing the important elements, which are to find a cheaper product on 1688 that doesn't change the perceived value, which is testing the split testing or implementing the seller frames and then implementing the product frames that we talked about, and with split testing marketing angles that the competitor didn't have, implementing and split testing guarantees. What else was there? Like those mind distorting of rationality frames such as urgency, scarcity, and anchoring the price, split testing pricing, and all of that stuff, right? So step two is distinguished from step three because step four, essentially what it aims to do is take what the competitor has and make it better, whereas step three, it's like implementing something on top of everything else. So they're quite separate. Also, step four takes into account, split testing the Facebook variables such as ads, targeting, budgets, bids, and all of that, right? So in a sense, this is the scaling part. So it's quite fast. It's not like, oh, there's the improvement stage, and then once the improvement stage comes the scaling stage. No, it's more like the scaling is done via all of those split tests, right? Because if a situation is profitable from the start, doing more and more and more split tests will ultimately result in a lot of sales. So that's basically a way of scaling. So scaling is composed of two parts. It's scaling while split testing, and then once the split testing is over, it's like continuing to scale with the best thing. Also, speaking about split testing, I haven't mentioned split testing. So I've mentioned split testing countries, which, to my understanding and surprise, it turns out that there are certain countries that work really, really well. For example, Netherlands, Sweden, Finland, whatever. Now, the reason why it never worked for us is because I found out some insider information that their preferred methods of paying online are radically different to the USA mode of paying online. So for example, and each country has its own way of paying. Like for example, with Netherlands, Bryn was telling me that they have some sort of checkout where they select their bank and then they receive some sort of code and all of that stuff. and each one has a different way, right? So that's why it didn't really work. But apparently, if a website has those preferred methods of payment, as well as being translated in their native language, it's said that it performs even better than the United States, right? So anyway, the point is that split testing countries in the proper way is included in step 4. Also, another thing included in step 4 is split testing traffic sources, right? So Facebook is a traffic source and TikTok is a different traffic source, right? So we only go into split testing the traffic source, like TikTok, when we have something that's, optimized and whatever. Like, it's like the creative engagement goes into leveraging the contexts that are already in play and making the situation better and better and better. And then with all those achievements and breakthroughs that are stacked one upon the other, then we go into TikTok, right? So it's like I included everything, but this is only in step 4. Okay. And lastly, I guess that's pretty much it. The last thing would be to basically sell the store. Right. So those are the steps, and it's quite important to do it in this order, right? Like, we want to build upon step 1, which is the type of person that we want to copy. And then, of course, we want to validate it, right? Before making all sorts of hopes that about LTV or some other thing. No, it needs to be validated. And then a structure, an infrastructure needs to be validated or implemented, right? One thing that I want to mention here is validate with statistical significance, right? So only decide that it's been validated after at least 20 sales, because then the accurate calculation of the cost per purchase will be achieved. Initially, it's quite random, so it's this particular step is very important. So those are the 5 steps. Now we have to be careful about 2 particular elements. The first particular element is, of course, not being messed up by Facebook, right? So here, like, I've done a compliancy course, like I went through it, and it's so like, it was so unknown. It's quite incredible how Facebook bans people based on personal attributes and using certain terminology. Oh, like, one crazy thing would be open loops versus closed loops, right? So for example, if the ad copy has an open loop where it doesn't finish it, like, makes people, like, teases people into wanting to know more, that's not compliant with Facebook. So the loop has to be closed, and there are so many of those little quirks that this course explains. So anyway, the compliancy course takes care of that. And obviously there's a backup. So there's backup ad accounts, there's backup business manager accounts, and there's backup Facebook profiles, right? Now, I've done another course where it explained how to get all of those backups, right? So in a sense, I know the theory, and even though there are problems along the way, like, you can't even believe how many times we are actually being blocked by Facebook in the past months, but I got it back. Oh, because I got another blueprint of getting the account back. So it's like so stressful, but it's manageable, definitely. It's being solved. And the other thing is not being messed up by the payment processor, right? Now, the understanding behind this is to make it seem like a huge brand, right? I guess that it's so superficial, but as long as it seems like a huge brand, even though it isn't, even though the shipping time is long, we would have no issue. Like, nobody questioned Carly Carson. Even though the refund rate was huge, there were disputes, the shipping time was long, Noro, like, they just looked at it, they thought, oh, it's a dropshipping product, oh, let's ban them, right? So I guess that the most important thing is to simply make it look like a huge brand, and also have backups. I don't know how those backups look, but We really need to solve this thing, right? So in a sense, if we're not being messed up by the payment processor and by Facebook, and we implement those 5 steps, then dropshipping will be a very profitable business model. So I don't think there's anything left. Yeah. Right? And that's why I value this particular product that is profitable on the front end, because as you see, in a sense, being in a, it's like, you know, if what would be an example? In a sense, if let's say that you have a football team, and the football team has Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi and all of those players, and you know that it plays against some very bad team. In a sense, you don't even need to wait for the match to be finished to know that you're gonna win, right? So what I'm basically saying is that those, like, implementing the infrastructure will 100% improve things, right? And split testing elements and making them better will 100% improve things. And selling the store by definition will improve things, right? 100%. So step 3, 4, and 5 will 100% improve the situation. And we're not sure how big of an impact it will have. We're not sure. But it will have a significant impact. So by knowing this 100%, that step 3, 4, and 5 will improve the situation, after step 2, like once we got a profitable situation on the front end after statistical significance, knowing that step 3, 4, and 5 will only improve things, right? And knowing that there's a saturation rate, at least in the United States, of 10 to 20 plus thousand units, because the market is so high, right? And as long as the profit margin after increasing those things will be anywhere between $10 to $100, that's why I'm pretty, like, rest assured that if step 2 is taken care of, like, this is the thing right here, step 2. If step 2 is taken care of, it's sort of like, if step 2 is successful, then in my mind I like see 20,000 sales multiplied by an average of $20 per sale. So, but sure, after selling the store and everything, it could even be an easy $50 per sale, right? So, like, after step 2, if it's going well, then I see $400,000 in profit. Like, I see it, right? It's just a matter of time, because step 3, 4, and 5 will 100% improve the situation. And as long as we don't have those 2 bottlenecks being messed up by Facebook and by the payment processor, achieving step 2 is like equal to $400,000 in profit, right? That's why I'm like so certain that it seems so obvious, right? So yeah, that's basically the game plan. So this is the end of this mini course.